hello, and welcome to Happy Hour here on Kennedy Saves the World. And today, Tom Shillue is saving me from loneliness. Last Happy Hour, I drank by myself.
You did?
But I drank a lovely mocktail. It was quite nice.
Well, I don't think it's that bad to drink by yourself. Somehow there's a thing against it.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, if you sit alone drinking a lot, but, I will fire up a cocktail before my wife gets home.
I think that's okay.
Yeah.
I think a little head start, little relaxation after a long day.
Yes.
She knows what you've been up to.
Yes.
No, everything is out in the open. So here's what we're doing. We're having a little fruit juice in this 5-tumbler.
Beautiful.
You can get yours at foxnews.com. And I think so. I think they're still available. But I've got some fruit juice in here that I'm going to mix with Red Bull.
Oh, my.
So it's a little bit of a fruity speedball. And I think you'll like it quite a bit. So let's just pour the fruit juice in here, Tom.
Beautiful.
How's your summer been?
I think it's been great, and I can't believe we're coming up to the end of it. But
have you and the girls and your wife been traveling?
We did a little bit of traveling.
Where'd you go?
We went out to Wyoming.
Beautiful.
Yes, and we rode
Grand
horses.
Tetons?
We did.
Excellent.
Grand Teton. We spent a week on a ranch, and we rode horses, and we fly fished.
That is the coolest thing. That's a wonderful family vacation. I've wanted to do that and go to a dude ranch for so long. Your children are a little bit more amenable than mine, even though yours were born here. Mine are like, nah, we're New Yorkers. Yeah, swearing and smoking. So here we go. Whoops. It's a fruity speedball. It's spilled everywhere. You can smell the fruit.
That's a dainty glass for a man to be drinking, but I'm, you know.
I really try and change it up. I don't want to get you too hopped up on Red Bull.
I know.
But there we go. Isn't that lovely? Isn't that a nice color?
It's great.
Yeah, I think you'll like this, Tom. This is like a nice end of summer mocktail where we can talk about our dreams and our hopes and our travel schedules.
With that thick straw.
Yeah,
it's like something that Thurston Howell would drink with Lovey.
Yes. So you and I can be Thurston and Lovey right now. Lovey. So my old roommate's name is Sherry Howell, and we used to call her Lovey at MTV.
Thank you.
Cheers to Tom Shillue.
Cheers, mate.
Mocktails. Little fruity speedball.
Okay, now I got to keep my pinky on because then it will masculinize the drink.
Manly. Man up.
Oh, that does have a kick to it.
It sure does. It's the blueberry juice. There's also a little clementine juice in there, too.
Do you always do cocktails on your podcast, or am I special?
No, we do a happy hour once a week.
Okay.
Yeah, we do mocktails. Champagne, didn't do champagne, actually did. I forgot. It was it was ginger ale with Jessica Tarlov. I did wine-colored vitamin water with Emily Campagno.
Yep.
I did a mint julep with apple juice for Janice Dean. So you get the idea.
I do. Beautiful.
It's a way of coming together, celebrating without alcohol, but still plenty of cheer in your cup.
Yes.
How long have you been at Fox?
Since officially 2014, I think. But, before then I was hanging around doing Red Eye and things like that. And
were you a comic before that?
Yes.
Full time?
Full time. And I spent most of my, it's funny because the other day I described to someone, I said, I'm milking off of Gutfeld now, but I spent a decade milking off of Jim Gaffigan.
Oh, yeah. Great comic. But you still do shows with him.
Yes. No. I mainly the touring shows I do now are with Gutfeld.
Yes. And you guys have a monster schedule.
Yeah. And it's great. And I love doing it. But it's very similar to the venues I used to play with Jim. But Jim was a big headliner and I would open for him. And it was just great, And he also had kids. So he had a certain, temperate style about him, as opposed to other road comics. We would go on the road. His family would come. We would have dinner in Las Vegas together. And then we would take in a show, and then we'd go to the pool together and touch dolphins.
Oh, that's nice. I mean, he's not only a decent person. He, at one point, when Greg Behrendt had a talk show, I was on with Jim and was so struck about how cool he was, but also it was something wild. He had 5 kids under 7.
Yeah.
He had just a big passel of kids.
Yeah, they
all
got right
very,
to it.
very young. And that's amazing to be doing what he's doing and be so present and funny and writing and still very much a hands-on dad.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a good thing to have. But then I was glad to leave it behind because, you do these things and you're kind of in the shadow of Jim. Now, I'm still in the shadow of Greg, but I'm on TV.
Yes.
So, I've got my own following now. When you're an opening act, it's a good living. And it was great, but this has offered me the opportunity to kind of have my own audience. And I really didn't have an audience until Fox. I did all the cable. I used to do all these shows, and you'd sit down and do VH1 shows. I would do Comedy Central. I did Conan O'Brien, Colbert, Jimmy Fallon, all these shows, the traditional route in stand-up. And people would come to see me. They'd be like, oh, I'll go see that guy. Oh, I remember him from that thing. But this is a real following now. Now I have audience.
It's interesting because it's so different than anything else. And Fox has a way of attracting unicorns and finding a venue and an avenue and finding space for people for whom traditionally it's like, because what's your other venue? A sitcom? It's like sitcoms are kind of dying. It's not like it used to be. Everyone wanted to be Jerry Seinfeld in the 90s. Like every comic wanted a development deal and wanted their own NBC show. And that was the traditional route. So what did you do before comedy?
I dropped out of college.
Where'd you go?
I went to Emerson.
Sure.
So I did kind of 3 semesters there. And then I went to UMass because I ran out of money. I was afraid of going into debt.
Yes, of course. Emerson's expensive.
Yeah. Oh, and I thought I had this thing in my head. I don't want to, move to New York or LA and owe all this money. Now, if I could go back, I probably wouldn't care about debt as much because as an adult, I've gone into debt and out of it many times. You buy a house, when the kids are born, you have your car payment and you go into debt for a while and then you find a way to, kind of get out of it. It's part of your life. And I was just freaked out by it, but I made a lot of contacts at Emerson that were very professionally good. That was a good school.
So that's, I think, what you pay for at Emerson. Obviously, it's a great school.
Yeah.
And if you want to learn film and TV and management and all those things, it's a very logical side of entertainment and very East Coast as opposed to some West Coast LA-based programs. I think it's great for that. The people that I know who went to Emerson, people like Doug Herzog, they end up becoming like titans in entertainment, and they love helping other Emersonians. It brings them a great deal of joy. So I think that's one of the big reasons you go there. But also, do you want to be $200,000 in debt when you leave?
I mean, I say that I don't, obviously you can't change anything, and I wouldn't change the trajectory of what I did because then I dropped out. I went to UMass, dropped out. I went on the road with an a cappella group.
Yes.
Making like $350 a week, but it was the greatest thing in the world.
See, that's what I try and explain to my kids. The jobs you really want are the ones where you actually don't care about money.
Yeah.
Like you're so satisfied, you look forward to working, and it takes a long time before you make money at those jobs. They're also the most competitive. So you have to be better than pretty much anyone else who's doing what you're doing. Now, with the college experience that you had, how does that inform your family? Like, what do you tell your daughters? And does it change where your girls apply and what track they take?
Yeah, because everybody around them is on the same kind of like college track. They were homeschooled for most of the years. They started doing New York public schools. Then we got involved in homeschooling. We have this great Catholic group that we do homeschooling with. And they're all, anti-establishment because they're kind of conservative Catholics and they have the homeschooling. But they all have the college fever. When it comes down to it, it doesn't matter who you are. I mean, obviously some people have a different idea, but most of them get college fever and you can't stop it.
No, and you do. It's very interesting you say that because I've always been struck by the homeschool movement. And I wanted, my younger daughter at one point wanted to homeschool, and I was talking to different parents. She ended up staying in public school, but I've always been very intrigued by it and very moved by the parents who are committed to it because they're the kind of people who are non-traditional, very cool and very flexible.
Yeah.
And they really like the homeschools. It's not like you have a classroom in the living room and everyone sleeps till noon and you open a history book in your pajamas. Like there are ways, it's like a quilt and you have different sections that you sew together. And it typically makes something very beautiful. So I love that. And I also went to the Sudbury School. And this is one of those things in my life that touched me so deeply. And this is one of those unschooling schools where there are no teachers, there are no classes. It's just...
Was it like a hippie school?
Every kid has a vote. It's very libertarian. Every kid has a vote, and they decide what they do with the money. And they usually bring experts in for the short residencies, and they explain to the kids like how to paint or how to do calculus. But even though it's very non-traditional, there are no grades, they all intermingle, all the ages, all the groups of kids from every walk of life, they all sort of feed each other, and they tend to focus and specialize on things, but they all go to college. Like the rate of kids from that school who end up going to college, it's something like 92%.
Yeah. You know what it is?
Very, very high.
My daughter's now in a Catholic high school, Ursuline. You know what the rate of college is? 100.
Yes.
They all, 100. But she's looking to do a gap year because she did it. She went over to England and she did a Hillsdale program.
In high school?
In high school, yeah, just for like a summer program.
Good for her.
Yeah, and she loves it. She loves traveling. She loves history and things like that. So they were studying, it was like a Churchill program. So she wants to do that again, or maybe a service. You know, there's all sorts of Catholic inroads to service.
The best thing for kids. I
Absolutely.
mean, you know, I wish more students coming out of high school wanted to do that, because it really feeds that empathy, but you also get a sense of the world.
Yeah.
You know, and when you don't see someone's challenges as a roadblock, when you really try and help them and find ways around it, it fuels such a necessary empathy that we just don't have enough of.
You know, I had probably the best kind of gap year. I just didn't know what I was doing. I was going to go to art school, but I didn't know art, you know, maybe performing, but you can't go to performing school, can you? You know, that kind of thing. I just didn't go. So I got a job at a men's clothing store, 6 months there. That was driving me kind of kooky,
Yeah.
right? Then I got a backpacking store job, EMS, but I'm working jobs. And
In the East Village?
No, it was Massachusetts.
Oh, okay, there you go.
So I was like living at home, driving my parents' car to work, you know, working for wages. But I got to work with people. These were like working Joes and Janes. And you see the people punching the clock every day. When I went to Emerson a year later, I was so serious about school. I was like ready to work and ready to kind of start, you know, buckling down. And all the other Emerson students were just out, they were still in high school mentality. They had just graduated high school. Then they partied all summer, whatever they did. They're all drinking. They were the first day we got there, I was all ready to work and everyone's like drinking. And I was like, what? You can't drink? This is like, we got to get down to work, you know, like I just was not, I was surprised at what 1 year did for like getting you in your mindset, you know? That
is so important. And I had that. I didn't go to college till I was 28. So I had a 10-year gap year and did radio and MTV and talk radio for 10 years before I went to school. But then once I went to school, same thing. Like I had a working competitive mindset.
Yeah.
And my competitive mindset was ratings. So it's like, no matter if it was TV or radio, you always wanted to get better ratings than either other people at the radio station or other people in TV, whatever was comparable. And so you had that sort of natural competitive spirit, but I was also doing things that were pretty joyful. So I was stoked.
Yeah.
And I showed up and I was like, oh, no, that was one of my times in my life where I was shot out of a cannon. And I don't think you should go to college and waste time and money unless you feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you don't feel that way, it's not for you. And that's okay, because it's not for everybody.
Yeah. I love it now. And I think the word's getting out. You got, obviously, Mike Rowe very famously has his kind of skills
Mike Rowe
program.
Works.
Yeah, Mike Rowe Works. But then there's other groups like Praxis is something, and I saw them. The Praxis guys were on, radio, and they have a kind of a internship program where they get you right involved with companies right off the bat, and then you can kind of do work study at the same time.
I have not heard about that. I think that's the best idea. Like, I wish there were more people 18, 19 years old who were doing internships.
Yeah.
Because figuring out what you wanted to do before you waste time and just fumbling through the dark in college, kind of like hoping to stumble into a major, is such a waste of precious resources, like precious physical and emotional resources that you only have for a finite amount of time when you're that age. How's the fruit juice?
It's really nice.
Yeah.
And, but I think the most important part is not to stress over it.
Yes.
Like I've been telling them since they were little, I don't care if you go to college. I don't care if you get good grades. I hope you do.
Yeah.
But I hope you learn. But I don't care. You know, I want you to like knowledge, to continue
For
learning
the sake
through
of
life.
knowledge,
Yeah.
yes.
And they've always known that. My daughter puts her own pressure on herself because that's what kids do anyway. If kids are smart, they're competitive, they want to do better. They study for tests. They don't want to get a bad grade. So they put it on themselves. I don't need to lay it on too.
But don't you find it was really funny. So going through the college process with my daughter, I was the same way. I was like, I don't care where you end up. I just want you to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't care if it's a better school or a worse school than any other one of your friends or classmates. I really don't care. Because if you go and you put in the hard work and you achieve this 4-year project, that's what's attractive to potential employers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what I want you to do. And I want you to find something that you really love to do. But there's so many parents who are so involved in the process and put so much pressure on their kids. And I wasn't one of those parents because I'm like, it's not mine. Like, I went to a bat mitzvah, and this is something that really struck me. I went to a bat mitzvah for my former manager's daughter when she was 13. And I was so struck by what the rabbi said. And he said, now, today, your religious education belongs to you. And I thought to myself, what if we took that through life? So what if your college education belongs to you and you're the one who makes the choices about where you go and what you study? And their dad is the same way, wanted to take more of a back seat and be like, this is yours. This is your responsibility.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Fallon had a really great analogy. He said, your stages in life, you're really handing the baton to the 25-year-old you. You know, what kind of baton do you want to grab from this stage of your life?
Yeah.
Do you want to grab one from a responsible person who actually did the work and accomplished something, or from a deadbeat dirtbag?
So true. But we didn't. I mean, I think guys like you actually had a certain amount of success quite young. I mean, you're on television as a young person, right? But it sounds like you didn't get into the high gear until after you got out of college and you kind of were more focused. Guys like me and Jimmy, we were basically like working poverty, for 10 years, just trying to get people to look at our stand-up act. I mean,
I think that makes you so much better at what you do.
Yes.
Like that hustle, it's almost like forging iron. Like it takes heat, it takes time, it takes discomfort, and no one wants to go through that now. Like no one wants the painful slow track, but that is what really turns you into a complete person.
I just saw a video. It's just one of these things that was kind of like either on Instagram or something, but it was Barbara Corcoran.
Mm-hmm.
And she was saying, I don't like giving money. The sharks, they give money to people for
Sure.
She said, I don't like investing in rich people. Rich kids, like they come in, I can tell by their pitch if they're rich kids or not. And she can tell the workers' mentality because they waited tables. They understand that side of the business. She said, people come out of business school, they want to start their own business, and they don't know, they never worked as a cashier. And she's like, I don't want to give them money because they're gonna lose.
Yes.
I thought that was such a great thing,
Yes, knowing the value of money.
Yeah.
And it's tough. And man, when you know that you got easy street paved for you, it really changes how you view the world and how you present yourself.
Yeah.
Barbara Corcoran is onto something. Is she your favorite shark?
Yeah, I like her because she's very politically incorrect. Like, I can't believe she hasn't been sued. She's always flirting with the guys. The guys will come in selling bathing suits and she'll be like, hey, can I take you in the back room? Like, I'm like, she's like, dirty old woman.
Oh, that's fantastic. We don't have enough of that. That's why Judge Jeanine is my idol and mentor here at Fox. Who's your favorite person at Fox? Or who's someone you consider a mentor?
Greg's a mentor. Dana's a mentor.
She's an amazing mentor.
And she is, I don't think I have to show anybody what Greg has done because he's the guy who kind of brought me in here. But Dana, behind the scenes, she gets people together. Like she has dinners, and it's no mistake when she invites you to a dinner with this person or that person. Who else was great was Greta Van Susteren. She was, one of these people who was just tweeting and about like doing social media. Before I even worked here, I was doing, I would do her show and then I would do Red Eye, and she knew I wanted to do Red Eye because Greg was like getting his own show, and So she would tweet out, Fox should hire this guy. He's great. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, not many people do that.
No, not many people like really try and give you a hand up.
Yeah.
And especially people who are established, like, don't be afraid of replacing yourself.
Yeah. Oh, no. Because they are, well, first of all, I used to say, you got to be nice to these comics. Once I started working and then the open micers are coming in and the comics, they treat them like garbage.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you can open for me, maybe, whatever. And I'm like, these guys are going to be, all these open micers, a handful of them will be very successful. They're going to pass us and you're going to want to grab onto them on the way up.
I remember having lunch. So Mario Joyner and I had the same lawyer when I got to MTV, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm best friends with Jerry Seinfeld."
Yeah,
and he was like, "He's been so good to me. He sent me on a show," and it had to be tough because they were probably at the same level for so long.
Yes,
and it's like you have to let go of your ego and let someone sort of the stratosphere. If for no other reason, then you get to hang on and go for the ride.
Yes, and he's still working with Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Jim was doing shows with him, and then he was going to bring his guy, Ted Alexandro, was working with him. I think he was going to bring Ted, and then Jerry was like, "No, I got Mario." So he's still, he sticks with his guys.
That's great. I mean, but I love that kind of loyalty.
Yeah,
and I hope that still exists. Adam Sandler's the same way. All the people in his production company, all the people in his movies are guys that he has either grown up with,
yes,
or was on SNL with, and he's another one that I look at him and I'm like, couldn't happen to a nicer guy. There are so many jerks, and there's so many people who treat others badly, and someone like that who does well. And I just love the tribute that he paid to Bob Barker. And
oh yeah, and I mean, he has been another one that, and he was always kind of like a punchline among, even in the comedy world, like, hey, go do an Adam Sandler movie, and it's like, what? Movies that just never stop making money.
Yeah. Oh, the one that made $200 million. Yeah. Don't mind if I do. Like Pete Sampras's wife.
Yes.
She's like, yeah, I'm Veronica Vaughn. That's right.
Yeah.
Forever. All right. Well, Tom, thank you for being here at Happy Hour. It's always great to learn a little bit more about someone and their journey. And you're such a smart person, and you were so funny. And I love learning where all of that kind of came from.
Hey, thanks.
Yes, cheers
this
to
was
you.
Great. Thank you.
Shillue.
Beautiful.
This has been Kennedy Saves the World.
Listen ad-free with a Fox News Podcast Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Prime members can listen to this show ad-free on the Amazon Music app.
Oh, go ahead and leave me a review while you're there. I'd love to hear what you have to say. You've been listening to Kennedy Saves the World on the Fox News Podcast Network.